welcome to today's Akash Weekly Twitter Spaces. I'm Nadia Bajuelo, Community Events Manager here at Overclock Labs. I hope everyone here now or listening later is having a great morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you're joining us from. Greg will kick us off with updates and some thoughts on the unprecedented week in Web3 in terms of OFAC sanctions. After updates, we'll give you guys a full introduction to our guests, Todd Garrison, founder of Blockpane, and Oskar Jepsis, co-founder and CEO of Alter. I'll be asking both Todd and Oskar to tell us about their projects, as well as their experience with Akash and their future plans, and we'll then kick off a panel discussion on the next big decentralized applications at scale and hear their thoughts before we wrap up the call with an AMA with Greg. We'll meet Todd and Oskars after updates, but right now, let's hand it off to the man of the hour and CEO of Overclock Labs, Greg Osuri. Take it away, Greg.
Thanks so much, Nadia. Hello, everybody. What a week has it been, huh? We got into trouble for not using open source software, and we got into trouble for using open source software. It's been it's the first time ever an open source software is named in the OFAC sanction list. This is new grounds. The sanction list was supposed to be targeting individuals and entities, but this is the first instance a open source software got targeted and sanctioned. While at the same time we had, folks not using open source software, basically wallets that resulted in massive exploits. So never a boring day, I suppose, in crypto. Let's talk about what happened with the wallets. Solana's wallet, a popular Solana wallet, Slope wallet, got hacked because they were, uploading private information, actually mnemonic keys and private keys to the servers, and no one knew that because the software was open, was closed. And this tells us the importance of having open source software for the open world. I was able to, a few researchers were able to point out that there was a post request that was very basic, very unsophisticated way of storing data. After, and we were able to discover that after doing a trace on the application after the exploit happened. And that's of course immediately we went and tested our wallets, the official Akash wallets, which is a Cosmos Station and Kepler, and we found no such malicious usage of code. But this tells us how important it is to and the priority and the project teams to prioritize security testing of the ecosystem tools and the importance of it. So ecosystem, open source all the way. And looking at what happened with smart contracts being banned, I think what's crazy here is crypto got so good that we have to get into the OFAC list. Now OFAC is supposedly the most powerful weapon of U.S. government. I mean, if you get on OFAC, countries, the terrorist countries and like terrorist financiers get into this list. The fact that a smart contract got into the list really tells us how far we come along as crypto. But this also sets a new precedence that any software could now become part of this list. I understand why the government put Tornado on the list, and the intention of the government is clearly to limit usage of Tornado Cash. It's not a secret that Tornado Cash was used by North Korean hackers. I think the most popular incident was recently with the Axie Infinity hack, where this hacker group Lazarus used used Tornado to wash the funds that they stole. So it's very evident that most, I think 80% to 90% of the activity on Tornado Cash is illicit. But the fact that a tool was blocked because of illicit usage is very surprising. And this is analogous to, like, I don't know, if North Koreans use electricity, banning electricity, right? So it's very similar to, like, to banning a tool because it was used by bad people. Um, all in the intention was to really, okay, the next question is, like, does banning the tool actually stop bad people from using it? Uh, in most and cases, the answer is no, but in this particular case, the answer is yes, because you know the less people using Tornado means less liquidity, right? Essentially, less liquidity means the transaction could be easily traceable. So there could be an argument made that, well, it's not just banning a tool, that usually the outcome is never the intended outcome, but because of this tool being banned, it's easy to trace the transactions. So it's a very interesting case study to be made here. And there's a lot of discussions around, like, well, did this happen overnight? I mean, I think the answer is no. The U.S. Treasury was trying to talk to the Tornado Cash team. I actually know the folks that worked on the team. One of the guys used to work with me a long time ago, about 10 years ago, with me and Adam at one of the companies. So these are just normal people, right? So we know these kids, and apparently they got approached, and they were, asked to solve this, money laundering problem, and apparently the team didn't do enough to solve this problem, and they were supposed to have this integration with Chainlink some time ago, and they posted something about it on their Twitter, but never really followed up. So I think U.S. government tried to work with the team first, to disable this, into help them, catch criminals, but that didn't go anywhere, and that resulted in Tornado being on the OFAC list. Nevertheless, it's a new thing, never before. So this is something we gotta add. There's a lot of questions about, like, well, what happens if someone actually forks the code and changes the name and launches a different name? Is that still legal? No one knows these answers. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion over the next few months. Now, people think so far SEC has been the biggest sort of, like, enemy, quote unquote, of crypto, but I was like, wow, wait till the Treasury comes. I mean, Treasury is way more powerful than the SEC, right? So Treasury basically has three, subdivisions. The most obvious one is IRS, and that's the tax subdivision. Second one is the OFAC, which I believe stands for Office of Foreign Control Assets. And the third one is the FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Investigative Division of Treasury. So it's a very, very, very powerful organization. You don't want to really mess with OFAC. OFAC is one of those things that if you're on the list, you're pretty much sanctioned by the whole world. Any U.S. person or any U.S. related person will not talk to you if you're on the OFAC. And I believe even going to Tornado Cash's website is now illegal, right? So you can get in trouble for that. So it's like the highest form of banning that the U.S. government could use, and they used it on crypto. So it's very interesting. This week has been pretty slow, and I actually took a break for a few days, and by the time I came back, it was just all this crazy hell broke loose. We had a few experiments that were happening. Someone actually deployed one of our community members deployed Zcash, actually. Um, Interesting timing, right? You're talking about privacy. So they were able to deploy Zcash for $4 a month. I think this is one of the lowest and the most cost-effective way to run Zcash. So if any of you privacy nuts out there, go check it out. We made a few announcements. We have two exciting moments you can meet us in real life coming up. One is for Masari Mainnet. We'll be in New York. I'll be on New York. I'm speaking on at the conference. It's from September 21st to 23rd. So if you're around, please come talk to us. And there is also a special discount code if you want a ticket. You can get $300 off if you go to mainnet.events and use the code Akash300. I repeat, the code is Akash300, and mainnet.events is where you go to get the ticket. And another event in Medellin, Colombia, from 26th to 28th. Adam Bosnich, Akash's CTO, will be speaking there, as well as Adam Wozni, Akash's head of community, will be speaking there as well. So if you're in Medellin, please go check them out, tell them hi. I may or may not be there, but we'll keep that as a surprise. The Akash bounty program came to close. We were amazing people. I think we were able to identify another 10 different ecosystem partners that we haven't yet added to the page. This came in pretty late last night, so I didn't have a chance to actually review these to talk about it. But hey, next week we're going to have a lot more fun-filled ecosystem updates with these new discoveries being added to the ecosystem page. So hang on to that. Um, with that, um, I want to move on to talking to our guests here. We have Todd. Todd is, a well-known validator. If you're in the Cosmos ecosystem, he's near and dear to the validator community. Super excited to have him contribute to Akash and hear his thoughts today.
All right, thank you, Greg. So, as Greg said, joining us today is Todd Garrison, founder of Blockpane. Blockpane was founded in 2018, and Todd has also worked in the financial, technology, and blockchain industries as an information security engineer. Welcome, Todd. Thank you so
Hi.
much for being here. I know you're traveling, so thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Also joining us is Oskar Jepsis, co-founder and CEO of Alter, where he leads strategic direction for the company and also oversees Alter business development strategy and operations. Welcome, Oscars, and please correct me if I mispronounced your last name. How are you today?
Hi there. Going great. Thank you for having me here. In my native language, it's Jepsis, but Jepsis is also okay.
Thank you. No, it's great to know. Thanks so much for that. All right. So, Todd, our first questions today are for you. Um, Todd, you've shared that you love building tools and that all the tools that you've built have been the result of a problem that you have had as a validator. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience being a validator?
Yeah. So, pardon me. I came into this kind of from the EOSIO world and love Cosmos. I mean, it's just amazing. But in that world, there's kind of an ethos of, validators are responsible for a lot more than just making blocks. And so a lot of these tools I've built are, they answer questions. I'll see something broken or wrong. So so I want to answer a question. The first one that was of substance was the network monitor tool, the one with the globe and all that. And that really was spawned by the issues on osmosis epochs. And, the first question is, why is everybody missing blocks? Who is missing blocks? Is it, always the same people? And then started asking more questions like, maybe it's a network issue. Are we all too dispersed? Is it just people missing blocks in Asia? Or so I started mapping out geolocations and then added provider information and, okay, maybe it's a mempool thing. So that's kind of how they evolve, just what questions would be good information as an example.
Awesome. Thank you. And then You've actually built many tools, and one that I noticed was the Cosmos tool in particular. It received a reward from round 1 of the Hack Juno program. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that one?
Actually, that's the tool I was just talking about. Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. But I am just finishing up an osmosis grant on another tool, which is Tinder Duty. It's a monitoring tool for validators. When I first started validating, there's one really important job as a validator, signing blocks. But most of the tools were focused on node monitoring. And so, it started out really simple, maybe 100 lines of code, but it just subscribes to the WebSocket and checks every block that you've signed. And if you start missing blocks, it sends an alert. So this most recent grant actually takes it way further, adds a dashboard, adds a lot more types of notifications and checks. And yeah, it's probably my most popular thing I've written. So
It's
Awesome.
amazing. It's amazing to write tools that, solve your problems. I mean, the beauty of doing that is you don't think of any other sort of like gratification corners than getting the damn thing working when you when you build something that you really want. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like when I'm like
yeah, it's
building
gratifying.
software, like it's very gratifying when you see the result and solves your problem, and you don't go after like this false gratification triggers, right? Like sometimes when I go write code, it's like I make it extremely beautiful and elegant, and I take the time that takes the most is the part that makes it beautiful and elegant than the actual functionality of the code, right? But if I'm trying to like do something else, I'm just trying to solve the problem, I move fast. And more often than not, the stuff that I write very fast is the one that's most useful. And the stuff that I take forever and, take my own, do my own like things to make me happy are the least useful ones. That's just my take, but it's cool.
Yeah, totally. No, I agree.
Like I've written bash scripts from like 10 years ago and they still run today. It's amazing.
Yeah,
and they're so useful, right? Like usually when I find something useful, like usually a small script or something, I'll put it in my ever-growing dot files that's been around for 15 years, and that's just there. And when you go sometimes and be like, oh, I remember writing this tool, and it's so useful, like I don't know, 7 years ago. Yeah, so.
So, Todd, your data actually shows that many companies and project teams, and this includes Web3 companies, continue to run on Web2 infrastructure. Why do you think that is? And are companies confusing distributed computing and decentralized computing? If you're distributed, does that mean you're decentralized? What's so scary about decentralization?
well, I think, first of all, a lot of these groups are using what they know, like especially AWS. When you've invested a lot of time in learning how to automate and build on AWS, it's your go-to tool set. And it's generally a horrible choice for running blockchain nodes because of the bandwidth it requires. I was helping a group run Terra nodes on AWS, and they insisted that it be on AWS, and their bandwidth bill was, double the hosting cost itself. So that's pretty that's interesting. But a lot of it comes down to knowledge. In some cases, like you have Hetzner, which is so cheap for hardware hosting. And a lot of the validators, myself included, prefer to run the validator node itself on hardware that we control, as much as possible, at least. So, on Hetzner for about 100 euros a month, you can get a 16 core 5950X for, with 128 gig of RAM and enough power to run 4 or 5, maybe more blockchains. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, it does create this issue where, Hetzner only has a couple of data centers where you can get those nodes. So now you look at every chain and you see Finland is like dominating. And if that data center goes down, I don't know what'll happen to, you know, a whole bunch of different Cosmos chains. So so, you know, like my operation, I've diversified quite a bit. You know, I try to be close geographically, but not run more than one validator in a data center. That way, you know, if something goes down, I have one problem, not six. So I don't know.
That makes
So how
sense.
do you normally spread out? So if Hetzner is the cheapest, do you use the same provider with multiple data centers or regions, or multiple data centers with different regions?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll use several providers. So like OVH, Volter. I do use Hetzner. I almost always put a Sentry node in Hetzner just because that's where everybody's at, and it helps, you know, reduce latency to get those blocks, those pre-votes out. You know, and not all of my infrastructure is pure hardware. So, you know, like small stuff, some API stuff, or like, you know, lightweight seed nodes I'll put on, you know, a Contabo or DigitalOcean. So, and then I've got, you know, some on-prem stuff as well. So.
Pretty cool. Funny enough, we built Akash exactly for that reason, right? Like a lot of times when you deploy your own, you know, a data center, doesn't matter, a bare metal somewhere, you go through the whole process of onboarding that box, and installing the software and making it available and ready for deployments. And the idea is, you know, to remove that the whole piece and give you that sovereign control, right? That's exactly what we built Akash for. Like to see more of such use cases unlocked. Yeah.
So, Todd, let's get your thoughts on Akash a little bit here. So, we saw your data, we ran across it, and we're completely blown away by how accessible, consumable, and well presented it is. Todd, how did you first hear about Akash, and what drew you in?
Well, you know, I know a lot of validators, and some of those guys were already validating on Akash, but really my first introduction was, I think, to Boz in February through the FIO, the Foundation for Inter-Wallet Operability group, and they were looking to do a partnership to get people using Akash for their nodes, and yeah, I totally kind of forgot about it. At the time, I was on vacation in Yellowstone, and then actually last week before last, no, it was last week that I finally got it all put together. So now I'm not sure if the PR has been merged yet, but now you'll be able to bring up a full archive node for FIO on Akash, and it takes about 30 minutes to sync the full, you know, archive of the blocks and the indexes. But yeah, it actually was kind of a challenge because EOS.IO nodes, the Nodos process is, it has to be PID1 inside of a container, and persistent storage doesn't get mounted as the user that is in the Docker file on Kubernetes. So I had to kind of figure that out. And, you know, the problem with like run user or sudo is it always forks. So I actually ended up using a tool I wrote like 3 years ago or something that uses it's based in Go, but it also adds some like seccomp sandboxing around the process, but it doesn't fork. So yeah, that's included in that too. But yeah, so that's really, you know, I'm just getting started with Akash, and I love it. It's awesome. So, it'll be fun to expand.
Yeah, definitely. We look forward to it. I know when we last spoke about a month ago, it just so happened that the day before had been your first time using Akash, and you pretty much said as much. You said, thought it was so much easier than it would be, and you were excited. And so, yeah, awesome. Is there a feature that you've found particularly surprising or been excited about as you think about moving forward here?
Well, now that you have persistent storage, it changes a lot of what it can be used for. That's huge. If you have to rebuild the database for a node every time you restart, that's a problem. And I heard you guys just added Terraform support as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did. Actually, one of the community members did Terraform integration. It's really cool. You can now easily coexist with other clouds.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm big into automation on everything. If I have to do it twice, I want something to do it for me. So I'm always consistent.
I'm with you there. We share the same blood. No, I love Terraform because it's particularly special to me because I learned Go because of Terraform. So I was working on Terraform core about 7 to 8 years ago. And I was using, it was 0.2 version or some ridiculously early version. It was very, very buggy. Mitch Hashimoto basically was the only guy working on the project at that time. And I found it amazingly useful, especially coming from CloudFormation world. It was actually 8 years ago, and I hated CloudFormation. It was just so bad. And I was like, I hate YAML, I hate CloudFormation, JSON, and Terraform really gave this new language that Mitch created called HCL, or Hash Configuration Language, which is very pleasant to work with. But it was super buggy. The parser was really, just written by one guy, I suppose, right? So I started, fixing a lot of the bugs just to get it working. And that's how I learned Go. And all the patterns I learned came from Mitch Hashimoto himself. And 7 years later, I started writing code, and started getting better and better, and written a few libraries that are now used by HashiCorp and by Mitch himself. So that's sort of like the guy I learned Go from is finally using the software kind of moment.
Cool.
But Terraform is a very special place for me, and I still love it today. It's just
Thank
gotten better and better. And our head of product, Anil, is used to lead Terraform in HashiCorp, so we have a lot of connection to that too.
Awesome.
Thanks, Todd. Oscars, we'd love to hear about Alter. Can you tell us what you're building over at Alter, how you got started, and where you guys are now?
Yeah, definitely. At the moment, we are concentrating on developing a scalable private infrastructure layer to support Web3 communities, and also traditional enterprise adoption with the highest security and privacy standards. At the moment, how you can use Alter is with signing up or staking secret, because we are moving to easy accessibility and free of charge accessibility to the communication platform. Also, we are utilizing second network smart contracts for data integrity and verification, and as well to store metadata, static data, and metadata into the privacy smart contracts, and also allowing users to not manage the gas, since the gas is managed by us. And I think the road to mass adoption is definitely seamless user experience and easy to use, and definitely a lot of integrations and support to multiple projects, types of projects like DAOs, launchpads, metaverse, NFTs, validator, communication between stakers, and community building. So
Oscar's something really exciting about you guys. End to end, you're a primary example of a decentralized application and organization. How has that experience been so far?
Yeah, so at the moment, we're looking into scaling our infrastructure, but at the same time decentralizing with bare metal nodes with our partner from Consensus One. And then, of course, our next step would be definitely to assess what are the options to anybody to store the encrypted data on any node. Preferably, we would like to, of course, research the options that we could use, potentially a cache in this case, because a cache is really nice for easy deployments with Akashlytics, and definitely the Praetor app for setting up the Kubernetes is really nice to become a provider too. And basically, you can host your maybe alter node on a cache easily, and that would be something that we could definitely explore in the future. But at the moment, we want to decentralize also the file storage more in terms of like providers, because at the moment we are using storage. But we want to explore options with Filecoin, and we want to explore definitely options with the cache because we want to really give the option to users to be in control of everything because our application runs that encryption key that you use, also an encryption that is happening. It is always on your side, and you own the encryption key. And we consider the encryption key as important as your mnemonic phrase for your wallet. So that is our approach, and we will be always with this. But yeah, currently I think like building such a infrastructure and also private communication platform, it takes a while, and we are on the right road at the moment to decentralize it more. So on our side, we don't need to worry about also in the future from the regulators or what, because I mean the data privacy will be an aspect that some institutions might change in the market, and then our kind of entry point would be that there's a decentralized solution with encryption, and for enterprise solutions, it will make sense to use that for the data.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely plan to maintain this ethos of being decentralized as you scale and you grow. And there are many who begin the journey decentralized, but then they grow and centralize as they grow. And you spoke a little bit about regulation. So how is Alter managing GDPR?
Yeah, as we know, GDPR at the moment in the current state, as it is written, it doesn't deter companies to use end-to-end encryption, and also it doesn't explain in details or the sideways about whether you're processing personal data, if the files and also information is considered processed as a personal data or not, because on our side everything is being encrypted on a user end, so we are not a personal data processor in this sense. But again, I think GDPR should evolve into some more solid option, but there has been already discussions to improve it. So on Alter side, we are compliant with it, and we actually have a lawyer that have been consulted before that we are not under need of GDPR, because simply we are not processing any user data or user profiles. In general, we are not even asking anything when you register as well on Alter platform, because we use randomly generated so-called Alter IDs that consists of random letters and numbers. So that means on our side, the system only reference the users in this way. So on our side, I think we really want to make the enterprise solution super available super quickly, because we really see that the GDPR might change in the future, in the near future, that encryption would be something required for the data protection, because as we know, a lot of data breaches are happening, but the thing is that with firewall and without like encryption, once data is breached, like it's accessible, but with encryption keys, it is then it's just a raw file that the potential exploiter cannot decrypt it. Because our approach is that every user has its own unique encryption key that he owns. So the so-called exploiter would need to compromise every user's computer, or if the user is saving the encryption key on, I don't know, YubiKey or KeyPass or any other method or on written form, I mean, it really complicates things. So all these things really make sense for in our approach to mitigate it.
So, Oscars, how did you first hear about Akash, and could you tell us a little bit more about what your experience with Akash has been like, and maybe touch a little bit on your plans going forward here?
Yeah, I have been following Akash since last year summer, because we were super interested in also hosting a lot of services, basically everything from alter side, but the security grade that we need at the moment cannot be utilized. But now, as we see Akash being very fast developing and delivering a lot of things, and also the persistent storage, we have started to utilize it. We have also become a provider there, and also we are hosting our landing page, and also we're hosting the front end, but we're going to be increasing rapidly in the future once also Akash progresses. We are definitely going to be the frontliners of utilizing everything that Akash has. And definitely we are now seeing two things that can be definitely accomplished within this year is storage. So basically Alter's private storage can be utilized on Akash, because the empty space that Akash has is pretty large for us to also use on our user end, and definitely want to see this happening from a Akash side as a support. And one of the things is that I mentioned before is definitely to set up the nodes, and if we could accomplish this alter nodes and easy deployment on the Akash, I think it's really nice, because we really want to practice the use cases that other applications are building, and then set an example in the industry that Web3 can only happen if we collaborate with each other. Otherwise, it is not possible to reach our common goal, which is a decentralized web space. So that's why we're also supporting and integrating multiple other projects, including, for example, Huddle01, which is a web conferencing platform built as well in decentralized way, and also with privacy. Definitely, we want to support a lot of networks, including Omniflix with the chatting feature for their community. We want to offer every layer one the accessibility of Alter communications by simply staking the token that you have already staked, and accessing with the Kepo wallet. And I think in general, like Akash is in a great direction of challenging this decentralization of giving out the providers, and also I think every single application should host at least their website on Akash, and I think it's like you only make it an example if you practice it, not only speak about it. So only actions matter in this case, and we want to be an example of it.
Oh, so true. And you definitely are. And yeah, guys, check out last week's Twitter Spaces. We've recorded it for you on YouTube. Greg and our guest last week weighed in a lot on that very topic. So yeah, awesome. Awesome, Oscars. Thank you. So Scalability is something that comes up often when we talk about Web3 and we talk about its future. And while we can't know the future, certainly we all have ideas about what that Web3 future will look like. So we wanted to discuss this and what the next big decentralized apps at scale might be with Greg, Todd, and Oskar. So guys, if you could all weigh in on this question here. First, what kind of tools do you think the Web3 space needs now? And Oscars, you touched a little bit on this. Todd, go for it.
Sorry, I was unmuting. Were you asking me?
Yeah, you guys.
Okay, sorry.
Let's get all your thoughts on this.
I had to pull my phone away.
Right now in the space?
Well, talking about the Tornado Cash incident really highlights how dependent Web3 is on GitHub. All the people involved had their GitHub accounts canceled. All the repos just disappeared, and that's understandable. Microsoft isn't going to ignore FinCEN when they come calling. But, there's several places where we're heavily reliant on centralized technologies in the space. Git is one of them, and then, Cloudflare. I think just about everybody uses Cloudflare, right? So I think those are two areas where Web3 is could use some help.
Yeah, I think in just like for me, I mean, Todd, your analysis pointed out the concentration of node hosting, right, on our favorite Cosmos chains itself. If you start off Hefner being the number one provider, right, inherently presents a risk to this heavily centralized infrastructure. Just purely discovering other providers and being able to deploy to those providers is a big use case Akash provides as just a provider discovery tool, you know what I mean, as a marketplace. I think using that as a foundation, as a heavily distributed decentralized system as a foundation, imagine the kind of tools you can build on top of it, all the way from, source code, hosting to node hosting to the sheer storage solutions on top of Akash, right? So I think the Akash gives you that foundational layer for folks to build additional abstractions on top that is founded on a decentralized base, right? So I think even with node hosting, you want to be able to to leverage remote signers and use Akash for the low cost advantage you can gain, where you still have the sovereignty of a remote signer and that you control on your own hardware, right? So I think it presents for interesting architectures like that, where you can leverage both cost as well as without compromising the sovereignty of your own node, right? So it's that's what I love to see, innovation where people find value in what in its core, and and not having to compromise the privacy of or concerns they may have, right? So.
Totally, yeah, and with Horcrux becoming more stable, it's totally usable now, and it makes distributing validator nodes possible. Whereas before with the standard being TM-KMS, it was pretty much you have one signer, and that's it. And if you want to swap nodes, you've got to be able to repoint it manually, and that's a lot better than local signing. But what if your signer isn't available? Then you're down. So it's still a single point of failure. But yeah, being able to distribute across multiple regions, and there are some difficulties with latency. So it takes a little bit of you need to be able to test, try out different locales, and see if it's fast enough. But I mean, that's easy enough. You just spin up a simple node and run a ping command on it, right? So,
Right.
And
Yeah.
all three of you guys, looking at the evolution of Web3 so far and the speed of adoption of DeFi up to now, what will be the next big thing? Like, for example, is the next Twitter going to be decentralized, or like, what's the next big thing?
oh, if I could tell you that, I'd be rich.
That's true. Any thoughts, Greg or Oscars?
Mm.
I think the next big thing in DeFi maybe is that perhaps there will be a way that projects can utilize their tokens in a way that it is a part of the companies or projects like shares, because having a long-term vision and also having shareholders, because I think every single token holder that supports specific projects, I think it should be the case that it is somehow connected, that the token represents some kind of share of the project itself. But of course, as our regulators would then foresee that it is as a security. But I think it should be easily adaptive, and also yeah, I mean, again, we are facing a lot of things challenging from the regulator side, but I think the next things would be making sense that this would be the way to go, and easy accessibility, easy to sell, and everything else. I mean, we have the infrastructure already built for that, so I think it's just a matter of question that this will pop out maybe next year or after 2 years, but I think it might get popular enough. So if there's a platform that could potentially offer such services for companies, for projects to kind of make the tokens as a part of the project itself as a shareholders, like a shares, then I think that's a nice idea and big thing.
My bet would be privacy tech. I think next 18 months to 2 years, we're going to have heavy regulatory, hammer throwing down a crypto. I think this is going to be the test of time. I think privacy tech will be the battleground. So usable privacy, right? Like, I'm excited about Secret Network because they're really building a platform that is powerful enough to build usable tools on top. And so my bet is privacy driven every other area, right? Privacy driven DAOs will be able to leverage privacy. I can see deployments being private, like with secret deployments. I think we're going to see transactions, just money markets being private. I also think USDC will be KYC'd within the next 2 years. I think we're going to see like two clear sort of like paths in crypto. One, the KYC'd, heavily regulated side of things, and a whole ecosystem on top of that. I think we're seeing like decentralized identity like growing or some sort. So I think the USDCs and the DIDs or the Web5s, we call it, all will like clutter together, and then you have this super private, super anonymized crypto world that's going to remain on this side. I think there's going to be two cryptos in the next year to two. That's my take.
Yeah, I actually wanted to add about the privacy. I do agree the privacy will be also the next big thing, but I think the privacy will be more valuable and easygoing if it's only applied to data itself, but not to transactions, because as we see then financial instruments and being private and not being able to identify like Tornado Cash, the mixer, it kind of approved that their standing point against privacy and mixers. Of course, there's allegations of how it was used, but I mean, you can point this so-called reason for shutting it down the same for any other privacy layer or token that is exploiting the same thing. Because I mean, it's super easy to attach that, hey, there's like allegation that this privacy token, for example, or DeFi platform that is private by design can be actually accused of. So I guess if privacy for DeFi would be something achievable, and it is at the moment, I think the regulation could kick in that, hey, of course you can make private transactions that nobody can see, but we need to know who are holding the wallets. So
I think instead of
KYC.
we need to know who are holding the wallets, I think it'll be like we want to ban these people. I think that's where ZK, their knowledge proofs are super helpful. Like, I mean, there is a problem, right? I mean, Tornado Cash is used by North Koreans, right? That's a fact. We all know that, and we have not done enough to prevent malice and misuse of a tech. I think that's where the exciting part's going to be, like using zero knowledge proofs, and we got to do Tornado Cash better, right? Give the privacy benefits it has, at the same time prevent it from being misused.
It's so hard. It's a hard problem.
You got to do better, right? Like,
I mean, how do you do a SAR on a smart contract, right? A suspicious activity report, because that's going to come up, as federated identity and all that is these are things they're going to try to regulate, and it's going to be an interesting time in the next few years.
I agree. I mean, fighting SARs are, I would argue that SARs are easier when it's open because more people can look at the data, right? More people can scrutinize the data. What happened with like the 85 odd addresses Treasury put out on this stuff. Internet sleuths went and researched the hell out of these like addresses, and they found out all kinds of things. I think like on-chain, highly visible ban lists are okay as long as they are on-chain and highly visible, right? And identifiable to a certain degree. So I think like this open systems ban lists are going to be very interesting because they're going to be curated, especially if they're curated by a community. That's my, it'd be super cool to be in crypto over the next 2 years for sure. And hopefully and hopefully not go to jail.
Yeah, no, hopefully not go to jail. Thank you guys so much for your thoughts. Interesting as always. So before we open up for like a very quick AMA, I wanted to give Oskars and Todd a chance to tell us. So Oskars, where can everyone go to learn more about Alter?
Yeah, you can definitely go to our website. We recently have refreshed our website itself. So yesterday we updated it. Definitely check out the new website. You can learn a lot about what kind of values we are bringing, why you should support Alter and use it. And definitely you can reach out to our great community on Discord, Telegram, and especially very interesting chats are going on inside of Alter platform, as we have OG's channels and also Alter community channels, and especially other project channels there to stumble upon. So
thanks, Oskars. Todd, where can everyone go to learn more about Blockpane?
Yeah, just blockpane.com is the site. It's not very exciting. I could definitely do better marketing the validator business here, and or GitHub is kind of shows more of what's going on right now. I've always got a ton of different projects going, so just playing with stuff and trying out ideas and building new tools. So
Todd, before you go, where did the name come from? I really like it. Plus you have a .com, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, the name. I do a lot of analytics tools, so kind of like a window pane. That's yeah. It's hard to find good blockchain names. So
I think it's great.
So if anybody has any questions, we have time for maybe a question, maybe two. If you want, go ahead, request to speak. We'll bring you up. And then, Greg, we just had one question today from Telegram. Greg, they want to know if we have any plans to launch incentives with AKT again, like the Kava Surge or in Osmosis liquidity pools or on SIFchain.
Yes, we will be. We haven't started incentives yet, right? So if you're talking about external incentives to boost liquidity, I'm pretty sure there are future plans. Not right now. I mean, there's no point of liquidity in a bear market. Trust me, it's really liquidity is a double-edged sword. So I prefer organic liquidity in a bear market. Incentivized liquidity you can save for a bull market. And as far as incentives go, we are in process of revamping our tokens, right? Token economics. A big part we'll be introducing is provider incentives. So right now, providers have no additional incentive other than earning fees from the network, which with the utilization not as high as a provider supply, that could be low, right? So and that's not okay because people are losing money. So we want to be able to incentivize providers to a certain degree, not over incentivize that you can just create this spam miner sort of scenario, but incentivize sufficiently so that they can cover their costs and maybe maybe a little extra on top of that to be able to find Akash attractive. So there are new incentives coming, and we sort of like save the inflation to address incentives. And I'm particularly of a camp where I think it's important for protocols to save incentives for growth and not incentivize product market fit, because then you lose the core sort of like weapon that you have in the journey to product market fit, which is data, right? So if you incentivize too early, I believe your data is going to be screwed and wrong, and you don't really know what features are working or what features are not working because people are there for tokens, right? Like a classic example, like it's Filecoin. Like I mean, no offense to Filecoin, but they're heavily incentivized play. So if you actually host data on Filecoin, you get paid, right? So you get paid to sort of like use their software, which is a reverse incentive because like what's the intent of the user? Is it to actually store data or is it to get paid? So a lot of them are just there to get paid. Um, so that it muffles the product market fit, and you don't get the right feedback you need to improve the product. So it's very important, I think, to save those incentives for later when you have product market fit and then use that to grow, right? Uber did a phenomenal job with that. They got product market fit and then they use incentives to grow, and they're very successful. So I'm a big believer on post product market fit incentivization, but a lot of crypto is pre-product market fit incentivization. So, I don't know. Is this a case contrarian might be true? I think it is, right? Like it's hard, very hard to get a cost adoption without incentives, but we like it that way. So we can get the real adoption and we can go really fast after it. Hope that answers the question of incentivization.
All right. Well, with that, unless you see any more questions out there, we'll wrap up. Thanks so much to Oskars and Todd for joining us on Spaces today. Thank you to Greg for spending time with us. A huge thank you to all of you guys for joining today or listening to this later. For now.